Let's get to our man, Alex Okafor, member of the Texas Longhorns and Super Bowl champion. Doing a great job with his Behind the Face Mask podcast, the Third and Longhorns podcast. This man is a media star. Alex Okafor. Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, fellas.
Absolutely.
Alex, we go back, man. Back during those high school hooping days. I don't know if you remember me. I remember you, bro. I remember you because on that scouting report, Bowie versus Pflugerville, number 50, Okafor, it said football player. That's a crazy athlete and is going to Texas and will disrupt the game in the post. And I played the post, and I played pretty well against y'all, but y'all won district that year. Hell of a team, and man, you were a tremendous athlete, not just in football, but in basketball too.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Zay. Yeah, I think this whole group right here, we all go way back. Zay, I remember playing you. Chip, I remember you being in my ear when we were doing the recruiting process. Everything, I mean, I want to say, what was that, 15 years ago, something like that? 15 plus years ago? So,
I'm old.
Yeah, so I mean, time flies, but I'm glad we've been able to stay in touch and been able to cover the Longhorns together.
For sure.
Oh man. Well, you are connected to the Longhorns. You're still actively connected to the team, and it's good to I love getting your perspective because you've played college football at the highest level and you've won a Super Bowl. You know what it takes and you know where players are in their development. So I'm going to start off with the defensive line because everyone's looking at the defensive line and saying, oh man, Sweat and Murphy are gone. What are we going to do? What are your thoughts, Alex, on what the Texas defensive line has coming back and the transfers?
Yeah, so, I mean, you lose a guy like Javonje Sweat, you lose a guy like Byron Murphy. That's a whole lot of production. And I think Texas fans at the time knew how good those players were. But then when you saw how high they came off the board on draft night, I think that's when it really clicked for everyone that, wow, we had a generational interior D-line last year. So that's going to be hard to replace. And I don't expect anybody really to replace them when I'm talking about performing at their level. We don't need that. So what we got to do now on the D-line, our strength was inside last year. Now this season, our strength is going to be on the edges. I remember a lot of people last year saying, okay, we're getting good pressure up the middle, but we don't have that closer on the edge. Well, now that the strength is on the edges, I look for that this season. I think this year we're going to have a lot more games where we're getting vicious pressure off the edge. And towards the end of the game in that fourth quarter, I think you'll see a lot more players sealing the deal off the edge for us.
Yeah, Alex, do you buy into the Trey Moore hype? Because I'm trying to buy in, but then you look at his stats at UTSA, and yes, he was productive, Conference USA Defensive Player of the Year, but the big name teams that they played, the production took a step back, and he'll be around so much talent. You think that it would negate that so you could see him shine at this level. But do you believe that he's going to be one of those guys that could be a key for Pete Kwiatkowski's defense?
Yeah, I'm excited about Trey Moore. Whenever he entered the portal, I'm like, look, Texas got to get this dude. If Texas doesn't get this dude, something is up. Like, there's a problem. So whenever we signed him, I was ecstatic about the signing. And to answer your question directly, will his game translate? I'm excited for him. The thing about defensive end is it's one of those positions, no matter what level you're playing at, if you can rush the passer, it's going to translate across all levels of competition. You see that in the NFL with guys like DeMarcus Ware. You see that Khalil Mack. Defensive end is a position that translates well across all levels of competition. That's why I'm not worried about Trey Moore producing for us. I think he'll produce in a big way, and I think he's going to anchor that room along with Darren Sorrell.
Alex, what is the key for a developing defensive end, defensive lineman, when it comes to knowing how to use your hands? Maybe guys come out of high school into college with great physical tools, but then you got to hone it, you got to sharpen it and become a technician. How hard is that development, and why do some guys figure it out sooner than others?
Yeah. For me, I had a coach in high school. His name's Coach Zerno. I'm a visual learner. So for me, he told me that my long arms were steel rods and use them on the field like steel rods. And when he told me that, everything made sense for me. Like it unlocked my hands, it unlocked my arms. So I say that to say the coaches have to present it in a way that's digestible for the players, that allows them for it to click, allows them to be able to translate it to the field. Also, it's about repetition. The more reps you get, the more it's second nature. You have to pound those hand reps during practice, after practice, in the off season. It has to be second nature so that when you're rushing, you're not thinking. It's all natural. So some of that takes time. Some of it takes a little bit of skill level, and a lot of it takes dedication. And the players that can kind of mix all that together are the guys that do it the best.
Yeah. We're speaking with former Pflugerville Panther, Texas Longhorn, and Super Bowl champ Alex Okafor. Alex, Kelvin Banks, talk about what makes him so good. I mean, you played against some of the best tackles in the NFL, and we know Kelvin is just a matter of time before he gets his name called. But talk about what makes him stand out as a left tackle in today's college football than other guys and his peers that are at different universities.
Yeah. One thing that I've always been impressed with Kelvin Banks on is his patience. Like even watching him as a freshman stepping on campus, I think offensive tackle is one of the steepest learning curves in college and the NFL. So to see him come in and play right away was super impressive for me. But like I was saying, I'm so impressed with his patience. Like he doesn't ever get beat. Like he's always in position. He doesn't make mental errors. Like you don't have to worry about that side. That's rare. Like young tackles, they get beat a lot inside because they're impatient. They're jumping out of their stance quickly, a little jittery. You don't see that with Kelvin. Since day one, he's always had that patience. And it definitely helps that he's as strong as an ox. So, I mean, I think he'll be the number one tackle taken in the draft next year as long as he stays healthy. And, I mean, I'm hoping Quinn is buying him a lot of steak dinners this season.
Alex, you got a chance to watch Alfred Collins.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, no one was talking about Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat as being first and second round draft picks going into last season.
Mm-hmm.
Could Alfred Collins have a similar jump? What have you seen from Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton? What are your expectations for those guys?
Yeah, I'm excited about those guys. I think Alfred Collins, and it's crazy to say, but Alfred Collins is going to surprise a lot of people this season. And the reason why it's crazy is because I know the fan base has been wanting him to turn it on for the past couple seasons. And I feel like every offseason, Alfred Collins is going to be the guy that emerges. I truly think this is going to be the year where he puts it all together and makes that big jump. And he's going to be the player that, the fan base lost enthusiasm in, basically. And I think he will become that player. He has the size. He has the motor, and the fact that he can play outside and inside will create matchups for him. And in the run game, he'll be able to – we slide him out to the 5 technique on first and second down, so he'll be able to create a strong edge in the run game. So he's one of the guys I'm most excited about. Broughton showed a lot last year as well. I need to see him at practice a little bit more to see if he can handle the snaps that he'll get this season. But I'm excited. He showed a lot last year, and I want to see him continue to rush the passer.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about the transfers like Bill Norton? I mean, that dude was at Georgia for 3 years and then was a big part of the reason Arizona turned it around in their run defense last year under Johnny Nansen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do not. I'd be lying if I said I knew a lot about Bill Norton, but like you said, he's going to plug up that middle. If anything, he's going to chew double teams, and we definitely need that losing Sweat and Murph. So if he can give us anything on third down, I think he'll be a tremendous grab for us.
Yeah. Kenny Baker and Johnny Nansen, they're coming in for their first year at Texas, both coming into the SEC like everyone else. And with the coaches that left, Jeff Choate, Bo Davis, that is some big shoes to fill, but you've heard a lot of good things. Talk about, as a player, how difficult it is to be, okay, I'm used to this coach, and then now there's a big time change, and I gotta get used to a different coach that might have a little bit different of philosophy and different terminology when it comes to the game of football.
Yeah. So obviously, when you get a new coach, they're not a coaching staff, but whenever you get a new coach, you got to learn their system. You got to learn their philosophy. That's going to be number one. Two, and that's the obvious one. But the not so obvious answer is you got to learn the way to communicate with that coach. Like, you got to learn how to watch tape together. When you're on the field, you got to be able to explain to your coach what you're seeing, and he has to be able to explain to you how he can help in that situation. So that's the biggest thing to me, is how will they communicate with each other? How can they build that chemistry? It's going to start in camp, or it started in spring. It'll continue in camp, and hopefully by the time we roll around with the first game of the season, that communication is at a level to where we're all guns blazing and we're ready to go.
Talking to Alex Okafor, Longhorn star and NFL star, Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs. Alex, what the defense, the secondary, it seemed like there was some communication maybe last year, issues, a lot of guys, 5 guys rotating at safety. You've been in the huddle. You've been in these meetings. You know what a defense is supposed to look like. Mm-hmm. What are you expecting from this defense? You know, they were really good against the run, 113th against the pass. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts?
I think we're still going to have a very strong defensive unit. I don't think we will be as strong in the run, obviously, for the reasons we said earlier in this podcast. But I think we're going to rush the passer a lot more effectively, and I think our pass defense will be tremendously better. I mean, we are almost returning everybody in the secondary. Plus, we got young guys that are getting more reps, and we're getting transfer guys. Once you combine all that together, along with the experience of these guys playing together, I think our secondary is going to take a tremendous step. And when the secondary plays well, the D-line inherently plays well, and vice versa. So I think that secondary is going to be a key for us, and our rushers on the edge. We combine those two things, I think it'll allow us to be able to maintain that defensive dominance we saw a little bit last year.
Who's a player you're really excited to see?
Yeah, we talked about it, Trey Moore. Obviously, as a defensive end, I want to see what he's going to provide for us on the edge, and I'm just a fan of his game. But outside of Trey Moore, because I feel like that's the obvious answer for me, I'm going to say I want to see how Malik Muhammad is going to take the next step at corner. Like we're talking about the secondary. I saw some very good things from him last season, and he looks like a shutdown corner in the making. Long, athletic, got great instincts, good ball skills. Like, I want to see him take the next step and be one of the better players on this defense, and I think he can. That's a name that I will be watching very closely during these training camp practices.
Yeah. Which players that you've talked to and interviewed on your podcast or with the fellas that impressed you, where you came in, you're like, I don't know much about this guy, but after the interview was over, you're like, okay, this dude, he has his head on straight. He's going to be, he has very bright things coming in his future.
Yep. David Benda. I think he's going to play at the next level for sure, but even if he doesn't, that dude's going to succeed in life. He is different. If you ever get a chance to sit down with him, his maturity level is special. He just understands it. He gets it. He knows how to lead, and he's such a dog. He doesn't get tired on the field. He's sideline to sideline, not coming out the game. And not to interrupt, but one thing that impressed me the most last season about David was during that OU game, when obviously we got beat on the last play of the game, and obviously we tried to put it on him. His communication, switching on the receivers, he took the blame for that. He wasn't the only person that messed up on that play, but he didn't put the blame on anybody else. He took 100% fault for that and kept it moving. When I saw that, I said, okay, this dude's going to be special. So that's who, to answer your question, him, 33, David Benda.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some people look at Anthony Hill and say, man, just leave him at weak side linebacker, let him come off the edge, don't put him in the middle. Mm-hmm. Let David Benda play in the middle. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that, Alex? You're a guy who's been in the huddle.
Mm-hmm. I think Ant should kind of move around a little bit this year and just let David have that middle linebacker position all 3 downs of the field, or all 3 downs of the drive. And the reason I say that, because there's not anything that David Benda can't do. There's no need to take him off the field. And we can, obviously there's a place for Ant. We can have him rush. We can have him drop. We can have him blitz up the middle. You can get creative with Ant. There's no reason to replace Ant with David because David does everything so well. Now, I will say, once David leaves this year, I'd be a lot more open to seeing Ant go to the middle just to see what he can provide us there. But for this season, no. Keep them two on the field at all times.
Yeah. Alex, what are you expecting from this offense? I mean, Quinn Ewers, everybody expects him to be in New York for the Heisman. And even though he has a lot of talent in that wide receiver room, there's a lot of new faces there that he has to get acclimated to. What are you expecting with this offense?
Well, first of all, I just shout out to Texas and the coaching staff and the recruiting staff, all of that, because the way they replenish that talent in the receiving room is impressive. Like, for us to lose what we lost in the draft last year and come into this season with the type of talent that we have on offense, it's very impressive. So I just wanted to say that. But two, I think our offense should be dynamic. There's no reason why they shouldn't. I think they should take a step from last season, if not be just as good. And the reason why I say that is because we have just as dynamic players at the receiver position. Our running backs are just as dynamic. Our offensive line is probably even better. And on top of all of that, Quinn Ewers is third-year Quinn Ewers. Like, mentally, I think we're all going to see a big jump from him, and that alone should make the offense just as good, if not better, than last season.
Yeah, and, I mean, there's a lot on his shoulders, right, Alex? I mean, he's got to kind of coordinate these receivers in these player-only practices over the summer. He's got to kind of take charge of that receiver room because he probably got guys trying to push ahead and lead because there's no real proven, guy yet on the field for Texas. They've done it at other places. Just talk about the importance of his leadership right now. Yeah,
his leadership is very important for this Texas team. And I'm going to say that because the past decade, Texas has been mediocre. Now that we finally have some buzz, some rave about us, some expectations, how are we going to handle that? Like, I know we handled a little bit of high expectations towards the end of the season last year, but coming into last season, I don't think anybody predicted us to be in the college football playoffs. So they didn't really have to handle expectations like they have to handle them this season. And that's when Quinn's leadership, to me, is going to be most important. This is still a very young team, and I'm sure they've been reading the press clippings all offseason. So we need a guy like Quinn, who is a veteran now, who is confident in his game, to take this team and make sure that we manage the expectations and him to step up and be that leader that we need.
What do you like about Steve Sarkisian?
I like a lot about Steve. Coach Sark, one, he's an incredible play caller. Like, looking around college football, I don't know if I would choose a better play caller than him. I think we got one of the best, if not the best, offensive play caller in college football. So that's one. Two, whenever he came into Texas, the way he shifted the culture was fun to watch because the previous two coaches, we saw them do it their way. Coach Strong and Coach Herman, they came in, rubbed some people the wrong way. Sark, he came in differently. Sark came in kind of loving up on his guys, like kind of earning that trust with his guys first, being the guy that they can lean on, showing the players that they care. And not that the other coaches didn't, but he did it in his own personal way. And it just felt authentic and organic. And that's what I love the most about Sark.
Yeah. Okay, Alex. So this is the first week of fall camp. Talk about what that week is like, because there's so much anticipation. You're training all summer to get better. You heard what the coaches said you need to work on. Yeah. Talk about that from your freshman year to the senior year and how different it was and what these guys are going through today.
Yeah, so freshman year guys coming in, they're going to have those nerves. They're going to be nervous as hell coming into training camp. Seniors, on the other hand, they're going to have to maintain their focus. This is their fourth or fifth training camp. They got to make sure they can't get bored with the process. The guys in between sophomores and juniors, these are the guys gnawing at the bit trying to climb up the depth chart. So they're probably the most excited and most locked in. But when you put all of that together, I think with training camp, it's cool to go against your guys every single day. Like, it's cool to be able to compete each and every single day. And it's cool for about 2 weeks. But after those 2 weeks, you start getting tired of seeing the same dudes over and over and over again. And halfway through camp, you're like, man, can we get to that first game? Like, imagine the defensive ends. They're probably tired of seeing Kelvin Banks 2 weeks into training camp. Like, can I go against somebody else, please? I don't want to go against the best left tackle in college football anymore. But no, so I say all that to say training camp is fun. Each grade level, each class level is trying to achieve something different, but we're all trying to achieve a common goal. And those are kind of how the dynamics play out.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Javion Cole, the transfer corner from San Jose State, told me part of the reason he picked Texas was to go up against the receivers that Texas has in practice every day. Of course, once the season starts, they're going up against the scout team. But I thought that was kind of a mature way to look at things. All right, we got a couple questions here. We know we gotta let Alex get on with all of his busy stuff. How about this from Jack? Alex, my wife and I have a wager going on whether or not Patrick Mahomes dips. Does our East Texas boy dip or not?
Wow. No, I'm gonna say it's been a while. No comment on that one.
Okay, no comment.
All right.
You can read between the lines on that one. No comment.
Okay. Coach 420 remembers watching you in high school, and SD agrees with you about Benda Don't Break. All right, Zay, I know you probably got one last one.
Yeah, for sure. Mack Brown last week kind of went viral a little bit at ACC Media Days and talked about how these other coaches are negatively recruiting against him because of his age. And he took a shot at Mike Elko a little bit. He called him up and said, man, I thought you were sticking around. What happened? So how do you feel about Mack, this part of his career, still coaching, still lively and upbeat? He's wearing J's and stuff at North Carolina. Like, did you see this coming, Alex? Or did you see when he left the game for a little bit thinking that, okay, this is it for him? Like, he's no longer coaching.
Yeah. I will say this. I did not see this coming, not because I didn't think he was capable, but just because I couldn't imagine Coach Brown anywhere but Texas. So when he wasn't at Texas, in my mind, it was like broadcast booth or, sail off into the sunset. So to see him in powder blue and white is a little different, but it looks good on him. Like, Coach Brown is finding a way to stay young. Obviously, he's still connecting with these recruits, and he's given North Carolina some good seasons. I'll say this. If we didn't get Coach Sark 3-4 years ago, how bad would that Coach Brown firing be looking right now? Like, Coach Brown is still thriving out there in North Carolina, and I had the pleasure of going to go visit him last season and seeing the game. So he's doing well, and I wish him the best of luck moving forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, CB wants to know, is Whataburger the same in KC as it is in Texas?
I'll say this, Whataburger might be a little better in KC just because they're all brand new. All the Whataburgers in KC are brand new. So there's just so much excitement out there. Like, I remember when the first one opened up in Kansas City, it might've been 2021, maybe 2022, something like that. There was a grand opening for it, first of all, and the line was around the corner. Like, it was unreal. So I would say Kansas City, just because they're not used to it and there's a little bit more excitement out there.
Okay.
All right. Tell everyone where they can find you. All the Alex Okafor enterprises.
Yeah. So I'll be doing a lot of Longhorn coverage this season. I have my own personal podcast called Behind the Face Mask. That's on YouTube. I have a podcast called Third and Longhorn with a panel of us ex-players, which include me, Derek Johnson, Fozzie Whitaker, Jeremy Hills, Rod Babers, and our host, Nick Shuley. You can find that on YouTube as well. Also, during the seasons, I'll be doing Sunday night segments on CBS Austin with Longhorn coverage, and I'll be doing Tuesday night segments on ABC Austin. Nice. And we'll be seeing what's in between that. But a whole bunch of Longhorn coverage this season, so get used to seeing my face.
Yeah, you do a great job on your podcasts. The Behind the Face Mask podcast. Everybody needs to go check that out. The Third and Longhorns podcast, because Alex Okafor does his homework, man. He asks good questions.
Thank you, Chip. Y'all set the example. I'm just trying to follow now that I'm not playing anymore.
I love it. I love it. You having fun?
I'm having a blast. I am.
Good. It's good to see you around town doing your thing, my man.
Yeah. It's been a long time. It's good seeing y'all guys. Whenever I got Chip's message this morning, I was like, oh, yeah, I'll jump on. You know, me and Chip go way back. It's nothing.